And welcome back, everybody, to the Podcaster Nation. That's right, I said welcome back because I know you were just listening to our stuff and you came back because you wanted more. All right, folks, we have more. We have a lot more for you. We have an incredible guest today who's going to talk about some very timely topics. There's been a lot of discussion about podcast networks, back and forth with a lot of the folks that I speak with in the groups that I'm in and stuff like that. This gentleman's very interesting. You're going to love what he has to say today, and I already do. I'm sure you're going to have a good time. This is the podcast. It's about podcasters. It's for podcasters, and it's done by podcasters. Of course, our guest today is a podcaster as well as the head of a podcast network. Folks, this is the place where we come together to support each other. This is the place where the rising tide raises all ships. So I appreciate you being here, and let's get rolling. The founder and CEO of the Legal Podcast Network, Dennis DM Meador. DM, how you doing, man?
Well, I think I've been standing here for 5 hours straight, but other than that, I am pretty darn good today. No, it's always a good day. Weather's nice, air conditioning works. What more can you ask for?
Why in the world have you been standing in one spot for 5 hours, brother?
Podcasting, meeting with my team. This is my setup, and so you just go from one to the next to the next to the next. You know how that is.
I feel your pain, 100%. I really do. All right. Well, hey, DM, tell everybody, who is DM? What are you about? Why are you here today, man?
Well, let's keep it in the podcasting thing, or we'd be here for a week. My background, entrepreneur since I was a kid. 14 years old is when I kind of had my first sort of business venture. Really got into media when I was in a unaccredited Bible Institute, which, that's most people's marketing background. They have no college in it, but we just fell into it. That's what I've learned as I've talked to people. And so 19 years old, start selling advertising, got recruited to sell another thing, made even more money. And then I was just like, you know what? I like this. Marketing made sense to me. Media made sense to me. Leadership was a natural thing for me. And so that kind of all rolled into business ownership and leadership throughout most of my life. I got into podcasting actually in 2019. Yeah, ideal time to start a podcast. But
I think I've heard that before.
I lived in
Right?
Austin, Texas, and I decided to create a show called ATX AF. We later changed it to FML per DM. Easy brand trick, folks. Take something that's going to stick in people's ears and add to it, right? So ATX AF, there's like, are you guys saying, what I think you're saying? We're like, yeah, FML. Now that actually stood for food, music, life, not F my life. But, if you take something that people are going to already know it and then add a little piece onto it, they'll remember your brand right away. So that being said, I launched the show. It was about food, music, and life in Austin. I was a guy, loved to go out. I was a social media influencer from 2014. I was one of the first Austin Instagram social media influencers for food. So got to know a lot of people, a lot of parties, and musicians. I just kind of got to know some people in that community, and I was like, I'm going to start a podcast, but I'm not going to just like grab a microphone and be in my garage and have a buddy come over and do a podcast. I don't have the ability to do things like that. When I do a podcast, I'd shoot 60 episodes in 3 months and spend $150,000 with a crew of 10 people. So
Okay, that's aiming high, man.
that's like, that's what I did. And it
Wow.
was like, and I had people like Ali Khan from Good Eats on Food Network and, like people that were not just famous in Austin. Actually, I was a week away from co-hosting Fashion Week with Matthew McConaughey in Austin before I kind of gave it up and walked away. My partner at the time, she was just like, you're going nonstop. What are you doing? Because I ran another business, a digital marketing company for lawyers, and had this podcast where we would shoot twice a week for like 4 hours. We were releasing episodes every day for a while. So get into that. And what I really learned about podcasting was there is a place for high production value outside of big companies. And I went back and visited about a year after I left, and I met and had dinner with, or I'm sorry, brunch with a buddy of mine. And he's like, you know what, man? He's like, you really inspired us here in Austin. And I was like, what are you talking about? And he's like, before you, there was either like the Austin Chronicle and the local news stations and whatever. And then it was like no one knew how to like cover anything. And then you come in with cameramen and you're going on site and you're shooting videos and you're interviewing us and you got three cameras and you just do things like at a production level that none of us really even thought we could do. And then when you kind of explained to us and we saw the quality and everything that came out of this, now has built a podcast musical, like it's basically for BIPOC people, primarily the Black community. He's a very big proponent for the Black community in Austin. And he's built this place where they can go and create. And he said, it's because, dude, you showed me that we don't have to wait around. We can just go buy our own equipment and do our own stuff. And most people get more response out of their own stuff that they make than those local channels. There's people like, oh, look, I'm on Austin Chronicle or whatever, right? And then it's like, you look at the views and there's like 350 views. And then they do their own stuff and they got like, 3,000 views. And it's like, it never quite clicked. But for some reason, me doing it that way and everybody seeing that. So I learned the importance of differentiation being the quality, the production value of the podcast. Just kind of kept that in the back of my mind. I'm now in a partnership with another guy. He's fulfillment. I'm sales and product, sales and product. We're growing this company. And I say to him, dude, a lot of people are asking me about podcasts. And when we include like an auto podcast that we make off of like a recording of their book, they love it. So why don't we do like a podcast, like a turnkey podcast service for lawyers? And he's like, no, I don't want to, So I'm like, oh, well, I'm not going to fight with you. So I put it in my little notebook that I keep with like all my little business ideas, everywhere from how many states I'd need or how many of those stupid $30,000 ice machines I'd need to make $20,000. Like I just get bored and think about stuff like that and then write it in a notebook. And then I'll be like, okay, so if I buy this many ice machines and the average blah, 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 then, I just like kind of think that way. And so building that podcast and then coming to my partner and saying that to him. And then December of 23, time to renew our agreement, taking the company from less than $1 million to about $4 or $5 million a year in revenue. He had been in existence for 9 years, less than $1 million. My 5 years, now we're at like 4 plus, right? And business lesson number one about having a partner is partnerships work until you start making a ton of money. And that's when you find out when the real partnership is.
Ouch.
No, that's true.
I bet. Yeah.
People get along better when they're striving side by side. It's when you're deciding on whether you want a Mercedes or a Lexus when the fights start happening.
Wow. Okay.
So I don't have a partner. It's just me now. I'm old enough. I have 3 directors. I treat them almost like partners. I pay them well. You know what I mean? I confide in them. I trust them. But on the paperwork at the courthouse or wherever, the state of Texas and, the United States government or whatever, that's just my name on it because I don't want to put myself in that position. So December of 23, he buys me out for the contract amount from 5 years ago, which was pennies on the dollar of the value I'd brought, but whatever. It is what it is.
Okay.
So I'm like, go to my wife. I'm like, yep, we've been fighting a lot. We didn't renew. And I was supposed to get married April 20th. My fiance, this is December. So we're 5 months from our wedding. Got a ton to do. So I was like, don't worry, babe. I've told you since I met you, I can create a business in a weekend if I need to. Took a little bit more time because I had my buyout money and I could kind of set things up and focus on the wedding. So that was nice. But we launched May 1st, 2024. Here we are a year later. It was me and my VA. I asked a buddy of mine who lives on the island. He's a family attorney out of Miami. I said, hey, man, I'm doing this podcast thing. Would you be a guest on my podcast? And he's like, yeah, okay. And so we did it and just for samples. And then he's like, my partner will do it too. So we did it for his partner. And then we went to market. And now here we are a year later, 125 clients, 32 people on the team. What we do is, I mentioned earlier, turnkey podcasting. Essentially, we know professionals are busy. So we do the production. We provide them with a host. We create the questions and the content plan. We do the social media. We create all the assets. We distribute all the assets. We create content for their website, 2 to 3 pages of FAQ content, which, if you know much about SEO, scales pretty ding well there. So 2 pages of FAQ. And all we do is it's a 17 to 21 minute podcast with 7 to 10 questions that would target their ideal client profile. And so I say it's very easy. If you work hard, create the systems, and know what you're doing, it can be very easy.
Yeah.
But, and now, podcasting, had my own podcast, then I had the business, and now I'm getting ready to launch a few podcasts, but the one that we actually have in production right now is called BAM, Building Authority Through Media. And there's a few things that we're doing. So first of all, it is in the style of like a 70s and 80s Saturday morning superhero cartoon. So
Okay.
I'm Bam Man, by the way. I'm Bam Man.
Okay.
That's how I say it. I'm Bam Man. So I actually take them through a journey, and our first episode was through the land of LinkedIn. And we came up against two monsters. One was chasing clout, and one was being discouraged and feeling like, and then my guest would talk about experiences with that and how they overcome it. And then we just kind of journey through and come to the end. And now I have a young man who's been working for me for 6 or 7 months. He kind of started off, but he's really into AI. He's like 22, 23. And he's just like, look what I could do. Look what I could do. I was like, you know what? Let's try this. So we're now doing when we release the podcast, you won't see our faces. It'll be our comic book characters actually talking, B-roll that's comic B-roll, and everything is it's a comic podcast for business.
I mean, that's a great idea. It's going to make it easily digestible. People are going to like it, so
Exactly.
you entertain them.
And I
keep
think
watching.
that's the future of podcasting. People ask me a lot, what's the future of podcasting in the B2B space?
Mm-hmm.
And I said production value and entertainment. If people don't start doing that, think about the 50s in TV. We literally watched a puppet cartoon with a cowboy, hat on. It's howdy doody time. Put that in front of a 7-year-old kid right now.
Right.
They would just be like, what is this? Why is it gray? Like, and I think podcasting is going to be the same way. As more people enter the space and it becomes more competitive, sure, there's going to be plenty of junk out there, but the ones that will rise to the top are the ones who not just present good content, because good content is common now. 10 years ago, saying I'm just putting good content out there, that wasn't common. It was all marketing speak and, fluff.
Right.
Now we're all putting meat out there. We're at the freaking Brazilian steakhouse of media now. We just got people coming up all the time trying to slice off some picanha for us. Can you tell I used to be a food writer? So how do we differentiate that? If I have 3 steaks, what's going to make me want one? If they're all 3, same grade, same size, same look of the marbling, whatever, it's going to be how's it cooked and what does it taste like? What is the seasoning? How is it presented to me? And if you think about podcasting like that, 3 blank steaks, this is my 3rd podcast about podcasting. So you have to, even podcasting about podcasting that podcasts, it's just like, right. We have to have that differentiator, and it's going to be, in my opinion, it's going to be production quality, and it's going to be entertainment value, even for not easily digestible. I'm talking about social media and building your own brand, and yet I'm running around like, hello, I'm Bam Man, fighting destroy ya. And, fine, but it'll be digested.
Nice. I can absolutely see that. I love the example with the three steaks. I hope that everybody's paying attention to that because it seems like a lot of us are just all common steaks, just putting out content.
And they're
So,
just like, but it's a prime rib. It's a T-bone prime. It's Kobe. And we're like, there's two Kobe right next to it. What's the big deal? So yeah,
right,
exactly.
exactly. What makes it different? What I love everything you're unpacking right now. Absolutely love it. What can the average podcaster do to be more entertaining?
Well, I think one, it starts with themselves.
Okay.
They have to, you know, I'm fortunate. I have a lot of public speaking. I was actually a pastor from 16 to 36, so for 20 years. I
Wow.
spoke publicly from groups from 3 to 3,000 for 4 to 6 times a week. So I have a public speaking background. I told myself a long time ago, if no one's learning, I'm not teaching. And if no one's paying attention, I'm not teaching and they're not learning. So I have to be worthy of their attention if I'm going to teach them. And why stand or speak into a microphone if you have no intention of being of benefit to the person that's listening?
Right.
So when you learn to step outside of that and just be like, honestly, I'm just my natural self. This is how I talk to my friends and things like that. But usually when we get in front of a camera or a microphone, we just kind of tighten up and we're just like, uh-huh. Yeah, okay. I think so. It's just like very like
Right.
that's people. And I would encourage podcasters in differentiation. It's just be yourself, have your personality. Use your personality to your benefit. If you have dry humor, there should be all kinds of dry humor throughout your thing. If you're the kind of person that makes that one-off comment that, my humor isn't joke telling. My humor isn't being in a skit. My humor is in a moment somebody says something and I make a dry statement that just kind of just shuts down the room, right? That's my humor. But like some people, they wouldn't use that in a podcast. And it's just like, why not? Why not use these? So differentiation first and foremost is you. So you're the vessel, you're the filter, you're the flow through which the message comes. The message is the same from everybody. But when it flows out of you, how is that delivery mechanism? You think about pouring any drink into whatever. If I have a glass of cold water and it's poured out of a muddy pitcher, even if the inside's not muddy, I might not be nearly as excited to drink that glass of water than if it came out of like a crystal chalice or a crystal, pitcher or whatever
Sure.
that's
Yeah.
clean and shiny. Same water, but it's all in how it was delivered to me.
Right.
And that's the same thing you could do with podcasting. The second thing I would tell podcasters and how to differentiate themselves, there's too much technology for everyone to be doing the same thing. I got a
Okay.
75-inch TV behind me. I can have any background. I've set up my whole office. It's an 8x10 office. And I keep my clothes in here because we live on an island. It's a small house. But, I've got a soft light there and a backlight there and a DSLR camera there and a 75-inch TV behind me and a Shure microphone here. Like, the technology's here to be able to do what we're doing. Like I said, I mentioned about the comic show and the podcast that we're working on right now. I have a 23-year-old kid who I'm paying X amount of dollars per hour to build me a fully animated show. I looked at animating a show in 2019 and it was going to cost me 10 to 15,000 an episode.
Wow.
It now costs me hundreds.
Hmm.
That's
Because
just
of
the difference.
technology.
So
Yeah. Interesting.
because
All
of
right.
technology.
Okay.
Because before, if you were an animator, you had to sit down with Adobe or whatever, and bit by bit, day by day, hour by hour, week by week, month by month, you had to create these images. Now you go into ChatGPT and you say, put this, and this, with this, and this, and this, and this, and this, and this, and it comes out, and you're just like, that's what I asked for. So the technology's there.
Right.
Use the technology to your benefit. I noticed something new are we on Zoom?
Yeah. We're on Zoom.
Go to your top right-hand corner. Do you see view? Click
Yeah.
on view.
Yeah. I've seen View.
I know, but
Okay.
something different. Click on view, you get a drop down,
Mhm.
right? And then if you get that drop, I can't do it, but one of your options should be something. Read the options to me under speaker, gallery.
Multi-speaker, immersive, follow.
Immersive. Have you
Okay.
used that?
I don't think so. No.
Click on it. Let's just show everybody in the show that's using Zoom something kind of cool right now.
Okay. Choose immersive view.
Just choose one of them.
All right. Let's see what we got.
Now, here we go. A
That's
whole
great.
new podcasting experience. And it looks
Interesting.
like we're in the same room talking. And yeah, I mean, we've got that whole virtual background thing
Right.
where it like kind of cuts off or whatever.
Can't see your
But what I'm
hands, right?
saying is there's so much technology here that we aren't taking advantage of that will differentiate us.
Absolutely. That's cute. I like that.
So there you go. That was the ant. That was the my coach told me 2 to 3 minutes per answer, and I'm still at 8 to 10. I'm sorry.
That's you're lucky you're on this podcast because I let people talk, so you don't
Yeah,
have to worry about it. This is your episode, man. I brought you on here because I want to hear what you have to say.
no
So,
worries.
no, I love it. So now everything you're talking about right now, this is stuff that you're teaching to your podcasters who are lawyers, attorneys who are also on your
I'm
network.
not teaching them a
Right?
thing.
You're not
I'm
teaching
not
them
teaching
anything.
them a thing.
All right, tell me
My
about how.
team does this. I have 32 people. My
Oh, I
team
see.
does everything. It's
I see.
turnkey. All the lawyer has to do is show up for onboarding so we get who their client is and who they are. Then we design the show, and then they give us a half hour. It's an hour or 2 hours. We shoot 2 episodes an hour, and we send them the questions a week ahead of time. They just show up and answer questions, and these are pretty much questions they answer all the time to potential clients anyway.
And
And
so then
that's all
you're
my attorneys have to do.
and so your team's building them a show.
Correct. We're building everything.
Wow.
We build the skins. We give them we have a producer who produced a show, Carrie. She's our lead producer now. She produced a show for Michael Cohen. It doesn't matter what your political affiliation is. Most people know who that is.
Oh yeah.
Stephen King. She did Strawberry Springs for Stephen King. She's worked for iHeartMedia, Spotify, Nike. She's our lead producer. We provide hosts. So the attorney just sits there and answers the 7 to 10 questions. Most of my hosts have been hosts for at least 7, 10 years plus. Now I have
Hmm.
people with Emmys, literally Emmys, coming and saying, I'd love to be a part and host and applying for all these positions that we have. So again,
Wow.
top to bottom, we're taking it. We distribute 1 to 3 social media posts a day for them from the content. We produce 30 pieces of content per episode, 10 reels, 10 audiograms, and 10 static pieces. All of those then go to their link, and we put in a bio link with all of their like a link tree with all of their stuff. And we design, we edit. The only thing they have to do is just say, "Yep, looks good," and then we send it out.
Wow. I mean, that's yeah, you're right. Turnkey. I mean, that's everything. So,
Yep.
man, all right. So I guess what they get out of it is they pay for all that, obviously, to be on the network, and
Yes.
then
Yes.
they get a show. They get to say they have a show and they're the host, or they're guesting on shows.
They're not guesting on shows. They have a show, but they're like, now we call our host the co-host and they're the attorney. But it's like the John Jones law firm show or, Law from John or whatever. And so people know it's their show. It's their logo. We actually skin everything in StreamYard. So it's their logo, their colors, their fonts, their everything. The show's named after them. They're the ones that, if they don't have a YouTube channel, we build a YouTube channel and upload to YouTube. If they don't have Instagram, we make an Instagram and start uploading the shorts there. But yeah, it's their show and they can do it several ways. We have 3 different ways they can do a show. Probably 85% of our clients do expert shows. So it's them speaking as the expert to their potential clients. And then our host, it just says now co-host, our host asking them questions. So that's one way. Or maybe they want to bring on people and interview them. We have a few people that do that. Or we can also do where they have people on and we have our host on, or they have like multiple partners on and we have our hosts on. So we're pretty fluid with that. we just need to know, what do you want to do, and we it's all part of the planning process.
Nice, nice. So, all right, you are months away from getting married. You break up with your partner. He buys you out. You're sitting here going, "All right, got to come up with something else," and you come up with this. There's a lot of moving parts here, brother. You
Well,
know what? Where'd you
there
get
wasn't
this?
nearly as many moving part. Well, like I said, attorneys said they wanted it as I was talking to about SEO or asking about it. So it's like there's obviously a place for it, or there's obviously a need for it. And so as I started it, like we broke like 5 times already. Like we started with spreadsheets. And that didn't work very well. Then we moved to
Okay.
Monday, and that didn't work very well. Then we moved to another like customer service like piece. And that didn't work very well. Now we're in ClickUp, and we hired a company, and we have all that. But we went through our process of, from the time somebody signs the contract to the end of their 4 months, is a 303 step process from all the moving parts that we do. This person's putting their social, this person's doing graphics, this person's doing skins, this person's making sure hashtags are good, this person's working on transcripts, this person's working on content for the next set. Like, it's just like everybody's got their place. But at the end, it all flows through to produce what we're seeing.
Now, you were very clear earlier that you're not doing, these things. You've got a team that's doing these things. But, when you're sitting there trying to, talk your wife off the cliff and say, listen, everything's going to be okay. Don't worry. The wedding's safe. We're all good. You know, you don't have the team yet. So, did you start off doing this whole thing, all these steps yourself?
No, I actually got pretty lucky. So when I started and then I started selling, I got this email. And this guy's like, "Hey, you don't know me, but I know you. We had with our old company, we had 100 people in Pakistan with our old company.
Okay.
And all of a sudden, this guy contacts me, and he's like, I was over the department that was over your clients because we treated them extra special because you're one of the owners, blah, 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 blah. So I've basically been working for you for like 2, 3 years now, but I quit because I don't want to work with him. I want to work with you." So he comes over, he builds
Nice.
my website, he does what he can. Now we have 17 people full time in Pakistan from just
Goodness
him coming
gracious.
over and saying, like, and I told him, and I do this with my team. And I know this isn't about podcasting, it's more about leadership. But like one of the things I do with my team is I try to find what is their financial motivation. Like what motivates them to grow in their career. And
Right.
like I was talking to Saad, and he told me, and he's the one over my team in Pakistan. He told me, he said his brother he's in DC, like graduated with an MBA from Harvard, and he's like a political consultant, right? And then he's like in Lahore, Pakistan, running this like small company. And I said, you know what? I said, here's my goal for you, Saad. In 5 years, I want you to be considered the most successful sibling in your family. I said, do you think we could do that? He goes, if we can grow this company and grow it as big as that other company was, or even half that, and I'm managing that, like, yeah, like my family, and I think already 15 to 17 people, they're probably looking at him going, in a year, you were sitting in a room saying, I'm trusting this guy in America. And now here you are a year later, you got 17 people working for you, or 16, 17, including him. So
Interesting.
that's how I was able to get started, is like, people just started sneaking over. My content director, same thing. Well, he actually let her go, but I mean, text probably 2 minutes after he said it, she was just like, got room for me? I'm like, heck yeah, I need a content director. So it was just like I had,
Nice.
like it's like you can call it. Some people say that's a God thing. I usually say that's a universe thing. But you ever feel like things just fall into place and you weren't even pushing them?
Absolutely.
That's what's happened with this a lot of the steps of the way. These vendor client, I never would have like thought to like call a financial planner for lawyers to have them to market, or because I told you I'm trying to build about 25 resources, basically, where
Right.
there's shows for lawyers on mine. We have about 10 now.
Mhm.
And it's like finances for lawyers, AI for law firms, benefits for law firms. We have a lady who I told you Emmy winning. She was an NBC anchor, and now she teaches lawyers how to be on camera. CFO, fractional CMO, blah blah blah, and it's just all this like jam packed, meaty content that we actually produce their shows, so we know the production values there, so that we can be of help to our end listener more than just our show. We are a resource, not just a place to go to get a show.
Nice. I mean, I can definitely see that the pieces came together for you. The universe was all laid out. It was looking out for you. That's for sure. And
I will allow it, considering everything else that's happened in my life.
okay, okay. I mean, it's amazing because I mean, it's quite a project. People don't usually just wake up and say, "Hey, I'm going to create this big, expansive network." Granted, you had a lot of experience going in, but I got to know because we glanced over it. But you started your own company at 14. What was that?
It was pretty simple. Snow shoveling. It turned into lawn mowing. Turned into raking leaves. Turned into paper routes. So I had year round, and I got all the jobs and had all the clients. And then I was 14, 15, 16, and my brother, who was 2 years younger, and a few of his friends were my employees, and they did all the work. They got half the money, and I got half the money. And I think that worked out pretty well because they were afraid to knock on the doors and get the jobs. And I sure as hell wasn't going to mow a lawn, you know?
Wow.
So that was my first business. Paper routes. I mean, just basically anything that you would pay a 12 to 13-year-old boy for. I've just basically had that on lock within walking distance. Paper routes, blah, 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 blah. Because I just wasn't afraid to go to the door, talk to them.
Right.
I kind of grew up in an atmosphere of like, people are people. They could be 90, they could be 9, they could be black, they could be Hispanic, they could be, people are people. Judge them when you meet them, talk to them, get to know them, and then make a determination. That's what one thing I'm very thankful that my biological mother taught me is that, I was able to go through life and I don't see people until I get to know them.
Mhm.
And then I see who they are. Whereas most people, they look and they go, oh, I got them figured out. It's not fair. Right?
Yeah, it happens to me all the time. They think I'm an Italian grandpa hitman or something. I get a lot of that. So I know what you mean.
I almost made a slight comment to that. I was like, I mean, I could see people judging you for being some sort of like,
Wow, I would welcome that because
hey, fear is a great motivator.
that's beautiful. That's beautiful. And when I asked you that question about the 14-year-old, company, you started saying, yeah, mowing lawns, and I'm like, no, 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 there's more to this. Come on. And then you're like, so I
Yeah.
hired everybody in the neighborhood, and I'm like, now I get it. So you Gary V'd the whole neighborhood, just like he did his lemonade stands, man. That's what you did, and hooked them
Something
up.
like that, I guess. Yeah.
Wow, wow, wow. All right. So I'm not surprised with any of this then, I guess, because you've been doing this since you were 14. Okay, you're 14, you're doing this. Were you taught this as a kid? I mean, how do you get this into your DNA to where you are now?
So that goes back before I moved in with my father. From the time I was 8 to the time I was 13, I lived with my mother when my parents got divorced.
Okay.
And my parents just basically hit a crossroads and went different ways. People have asked me, what would you name your biography? And it's a pretty easy title. Daddy's a preacher, mama's a prostitute, because that was my life. My mom, at that time, though, was dating heroin dealers, crack dealers, gang leaders out of Chicago, the Gangsta Disciples. So our house was a 24/7 gang house, party house for about 5 years. My mom would, if she had a job, she would spend that money. So I learned how to take care of me and my little sister from about 8 years old on because we had nickel deposit in Iowa. So every morning we'd have a big stack of hundreds of beer cans. We'd dump them out. I'd have 4 or 5 bags. My sister would have 1 or 2 bags. We'd take them up to the grocery store. We'd about $12 to $15, depending on the day. Some days we get a little more, so we go to fast food. Some days we get less, and we just get like a couple of like snack cakes at the gas station. And some days we go to the buy like make ourselves like pigs in a blanket. But like I literally learned how to look out for money and how to take care of myself to get money as a young person. And so because I had to look around and My mom was also in an abusive relationship. So I had to mentally, like when we would meet people in the neighborhood, I have to be like, is this somebody I could knock on the door at 2 o'clock in the morning with my mom and my sister behind me crying and saying, can we stay here tonight? So with things like that, trauma, right? Whatever. Uh, but that's why, I mean, like, I don't look back at those sort of things and be like, oh, woe is me. Because I know if I hadn't been that 8-year-old who took care of his sister, I wouldn't have been that 14-year-old who took care of himself. I wouldn't have been that I wouldn't have been that 16-year-old who stood up in front of 600 other teenagers and spoke publicly in like a church setting for the first time. I wouldn't have pastored a church at 18. I wouldn't have started my first business at 21, 22. I wouldn't have, you see what I'm saying? Like my whole
Oh, yeah.
life would have been different if I would have had a happy childhood. So I'm happy that I didn't have a happy childhood because it made me who I am. And I actually tattooed on my arm, embrace your journey. And whoever's watching this might be able to say, but just embrace your journey. Thorns, roses, doesn't matter. It's still your journey. And if I hadn't went through all that, I wouldn't be living on an island. I wouldn't be married to my wonderful wife. I wouldn't be traveling the world as much as I want. I wouldn't be able to be a part of this exciting business adventure. I'd be sitting around waiting for someone who has the temperament that I have right now to do something so I could join them. Because that's what most people do. And I'm okay with that. Not everyone can be the guy who's willing to risk his family and his relationships and everything to start a business. But
Right.
think about that while you're doing it.
I have a little bit of a similar, well, background. Let's just leave it at that. So
Yeah.
I hear and feel everything you're saying to me right now. So I think maybe I'm right in assuming this. One of the best parts about getting out of that and about succeeding at something else, especially when it's self-made, is that no one can ever take it from you either.
Oh, no. Yeah,
Yeah,
I totally agree with that.
yeah.
I
And
totally agree with
I
that.
see a lot of that in you, right?
I,
To
I
be
do a
honest.
lot of mentoring. I do a lot of mentoring, either in my company or even like in different places. I love to take like that 25, 26 person, but I see they've got some smarts and like take them from like a 40K income producer to like 300K plus. There's probably about 20 people in Austin, Texas that I mentored that are in that position now. And there's one guy in my company already through this year. He started as a junior salesman setting up my appointments. Now he'll make 150, 200 this year. So I love mentoring people. Um, and people ask me, well, why do you love mentoring people? And I always say this because no one mentored me. And I wish I would have had a mentor. So I just try to be the mentor that I wish I had. I try to be the person in people's lives that I wish I had in my life at the times that they're going through, whatever that is.
I love that. I love that. And again, whether it's God or the universe calling you to do it, it is a real thing to become the thing that you needed and didn't have. That's huge. That's really
Yeah.
huge. That's power to you, man. I mean, that's one heck of a story that you got going.
I
And
appreciate that.
I mean,
I just
seriously.
look at it as my life, but thank you.
Right. When it's happening to us, we're like, yeah, it's Tuesday, man. What do you want to hear from
Yeah.
me? But I get it. All right. So the podcast is next, obviously. But I mean,
Okay.
125 shows, successful company. What's next after that? I mean, growing, building something, or are you looking for to
I
sell
want to
this at
build
some
this
point?
to no, I want to build this to about 2,500 clients,
Okay.
about 12 to 15 million a year. By that time, I should be able to be living in Southeast Asia. We're slowly making our way. We're going to probably we're going to live in Merida and use that as a springboard for Central and South America. Because moving here, it costs more to see Central and South America from Belize than it does from the United States. But when you move to Merida, it's like $79 to Mexico City, $100 to Brazil, versus like 1,200 where we got to go here over to Houston, over to this and back down there. So we're going to use that for 2, 3 years to get to see Central and South America. I've seen all 48 contiguous. My wife has 3 left. And then we need to see Alaska. We both love to travel. That's like, so we just try. And the good thing is laptop, microphone, good internet. We're good to go. Now I just need a TV I can hook up to and put a little background on it. And I look like I know what I'm doing. So
Hey, being mobile is priceless in today's world. That's fantastic. I love that.
Exactly.
Absolutely love it. All right, so that's what's next. From 125 to 2500. I have no doubt in my mind you're going to hit that. And you probably even have it all mapped out how you're going to do
Every step of the way, my friend, and all the
it.
contingencies.
There it is. There it is. I'm not even surprised. All right. I usually ask a corny question. So this is kind of like my Arnold Schwarzenegger "I'll be back" thing. I just like to fit it in.
Okay.
I usually get a really unique answer, and with the energy that you're bringing, brother, I can't wait to hear this one. So, um, with what you do, and it's not just about a podcast, but it's about with what you do, just in business in general. That's how I'm going to phrase it for you. Okay.
Okay.
What is the thing about what you do every day that you love the most? And what is the thing that you do every day that, man, you just really dislike the most?
I love when I get to be creative because it's not my primary skill set. My primary skill set is communicating. And so when I get to be creative, there's that part of me that feels that. So whether it's like with this new show I told you with making it comic style and all of that, like that was all just me, just like riffing, like, okay, like how do I make it this? And then I saw that and I saw these little babies with AI and I'm like, well, can't we make cartoons with AI? And I was like, okay, so let's put it all together. So that I love. What do I hate? Anything that I could be paying someone else to do.
Nice. I
Because
love that answer.
I focus, and here's what I tell my company and my team. Here's what I tell my team members. I want you doing the things only you can do. Only I can communicate as the founder CEO. So I have to be the one to do this. If I'm making spreadsheets, there's something wrong with my company, right?
Yeah,
If
absolutely.
I'm doing this sort of like, and so, like I hired a new guy for client success. I actually have known him as a friend for a while, but I ended up bringing him on, and he's like, dude, like, why can't I just call you and ask you questions during the day? And I was like, you want 30 to 45 minutes of my day every day. I have 7 people in the company that have comparable access to me as you. So that would be 4 hours or so every day that all I would do would be talking through when all of those things could have been answered in text messages in 3 minutes combined. That is why I do not talk on the phone with you. It's like, I get it. I get it. Okay. Well, can we like talk as friends? And I'm like, evenings and weekends, sure. Don't call me at 3 o'clock on a Tuesday wanting to chat about the game because you better be like, hey, this customer, just bought a billboard that says we're awful. We got to do something. Like that's why you need to call me. Not something else.
Anything that I can have somebody else do. That's great. That's a fantastic answer to that question.
I
I
always tell people like learn what your dollar per hour value is,
hmm,
both on the clock and off of it. And once you determine that, hire everybody who is lower than that amount. It used to be a while back, it used to be $100 an hour. So I didn't mow my lawn. I didn't clean my house and whatever it is, right? It's different now. I won't say what it is because it doesn't matter. But if everybody kind of determined that in their head, what their time and their leisure time is worth, not just your on the clock hours, then you would know what you need to outsource and what and make your life better versus not.
nice. Nice. Okay. You've given a whole bunch of advice to folks on this podcast. I mean, just as you've been going, you've been spitting advice, which is beautiful. And I hope everybody's catching some pieces of this. Folks, this is one you may even want to listen to twice. I'm just telling you right now, go back through it, a little bit of slow stuff and apply some of these things to your business. But um, as far as podcasters go, I mean, most of us as podcasters, we're doing it all. We're doing every little piece. We're handling the
Right.
whole thing. Nobody likes to outsource. We're all control freaks. Nobody wants to let anything go, right? So, is there any piece of advice you have for podcasters who are listening to this now, who are not yet at your level with building networks and systems and everything else, to make their lives a little bit easier?
Well, I think every process needs a system. And so I think the first thing would be like what we did is look at each piece of what you're doing. Because while you say, I'm a control freak. I need to be in control of that, which is fine. There are people like that. I mean, I'm a control freak, but in a different way, right? But while you're saying that, I guarantee you there are at least there are several pieces of your process that you could outsource without it even being able to touch your quality. So I would examine my process to see where I could hire a $4 an hour VA from the Philippines, $6 an hour VA from the Philippines, but yet in their 10 hours a week that they help me, that's 10, 20 hours a week that I would free up for myself. So, whether it's emailing guests, watching your email, I mean, there are levels of help. You might not want to hire a video editor at $250 an hour, but hire a VA that does the low end stuff that does not affect the quality. It just takes up your time. That's what I would tell them. Or find an AI system to help you with it. Sidecoach.ai is what I use. And it's supposed to be like a business coach. And what I love about it is it texts me. I can do I can send it a voice note, and it'll take everything from that voice message, and it'll make it into actionable. I'll be like, okay, we need to start this project, and this is assigned to this person. This is assigned to this person. It's a 2-week timeline. We need it on Tuesday. I want it on this by this, and I want these delivered by the blah, blah, blah. And I'll put it in a thing, and then I'll look into Side Coach, and it'll literally have it all laid out step by step of how I described it. And so, again, find ways to maximize your time. If you like the video editing, grab a hold of the video editing and the hosting, and then let go of some of the other stuff. Let go of the pieces that don't affect quality. They just take time.
Nice. Nice. Listen, I appreciate everything you brought here today. I want to go ahead and just give you the floor for a minute. And I want to make sure, if is there anything I didn't ask you about that you want to make sure you bring up today? Is there something maybe that we brought up and you want to just, push it home a little bit further, or, one last thing you want to leave with everybody? The floor is yours for the last minute or two here.
I mean, if we're talking to podcasters here, here's what I would say to other podcasters. I would say two things. One is take yourself more seriously. Oh, it's just a hobby. How many times have you talked to somebody? You got a podcast? Oh, it's just, yeah, I don't really have any more listeners. Or like, if you're going to take time to do it, take yourself seriously. And then my other piece of advice corresponds amazingly easily with it, which is don't take yourself so seriously. Because when you get behind that camera and you have that opportunity to shine, use it to differentiate yourself. Because people like people. People follow people. So that's who they're going to pay attention to. So take yourself seriously, but don't take yourself too seriously.
Nice. That actually makes perfect sense. I love it. Absolutely love
Hopefully.
it. I love it. CEO and founder of the Legal Podcast Network, visionary, future king of the world, I think probably at this point. And Dennis DM Meador.
Listen,
DM, thank you for coming on.
I don't need to be known. I just need to be paid.
Right on. I love that. It's like golden rule stuff. No, DM,
Exactly.
thank you. Thank you, man, for being here.
Absolutely.
And
It's been a good show.
you shared so much. It was beautiful. So thanks for coming on, man.
Thanks for having me on, my man.
All right, folks, this has been another episode of the Podcaster Nation. This is the this is the show that is about podcasters. It's for podcasters, and it's done by podcasters. If you don't take something from this show today, folks, you're just not paying attention. So please go back, listen to it, pick something out of it that's going to help you, because this is the place where the rising tide truly raises all ships. So keep sailing.